Welcome to Excel Magic Trick number 506. Hey, if you want to download this workbook and follow along, click on my YouTube channel, then click on my college website link, and you can download the workbook, Excel Magic Trick 506. You also want to download Excel Magic Trick 506 Done, because here's the finished version. And this video is actually going to take a little while to do, and we're going to have a lot of tricks. But the main idea is this. We have bank account number 1 with firm 1, bank account number 2 from firm 2, bank account number 3 that we're monitoring from firm 2, and you could have more. And we need a summarization sheet for cash flows where we simply select the firm. Right? It shows not only the accounts that that firm uses, but it looks over to the right sheet and summarizes. Here for the second one, it's not only getting the right accounts, but this one is going through 2 sheets and summarizing. So we're going to see a bunch of tricks here. We also have our sheet over here with our chart of accounts and our firm names. Now here's the done one. That's just to show you what the end product is. Now let's come over here to this one here. It's going to be, we're going to do a lot of tricks here. The main trick at the end is going to be to see how to use the choose function to select different named ranges to display different chart of accounts, and the choose functions to display and calculate different formulas depending on which firm. Because remember, we have different sheets. So the formula needs to be able to either summarize depending on which firm, whichever sheets there are. If we switch the firm, then it needs to summarize from a different sheet. We'll start off by coming to accounts. We have just 2 firms. You could do this with more chart of accounts, more firms. We want to name these ranges because we're going to use data validations. We're going to use these named ranges and formulas to display the chart of accounts. And we want dynamic ranges. The dynamic ranges are because for the bank account, for example, we want to just be able to add transactions and have anything we add here update on our cash flow sheet. Similarly, if we add new accounts, we want those to show up on over here. So we need dynamic ranges. First, number 1, let's name this range chart of account 1, this name here chart of account 2, and this firm names. And we're going to use the keyboard shortcut. Create names from selection. That's the name I want for this range. Control-Shift F3. Create names from selection. Top row, that's where the name is coming from. Click OK. Control-Shift F3, Enter. Control-Shift F3, Enter. We can check those names from the name box. There it is. Chart of account 1, 2, firms. Right, now let's go over here, and we want data validation. Notice I've already added, and you can see from here the tables. I've already converted these to tables. These are our actual checkbooks. If I select 2, it jumps over to this sheet. If I select table 3, go over to this sheet. By the way, I'm not going to use table nomenclature in this. But if you wanted to, this is named table 3. But how in the world do you know? You could go to the Design tab. That's 2007 or 10 and change the table name right there. Let's go ahead and now create these as tables. In 2003, you use Control L. In 2010, you use Control T. Again, we're not using the names created from the table or list feature. We're using the aspect that it creates a dynamic range. So there it is right there. Control T. Click OK. And this one we don't need. We're going to use this for VLOOKUP, but this one right here I need. So I'm actually going to highlight the whole thing and Control T. Actually, Escape, click in one cell. We're going to do Control T for the whole thing. Click OK. Now notice that we also named this firm right here. Just like these have table names, columns have names, the whole table have names. We're not going to use those. We're going to use regular name. That's why I went ahead and named that firms. All right, dynamic everything. Now let's go out some data validation, and we'll learn something interesting about data validation. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Alt-DL, and then select a list. Come down here, F3 to select from paste names. Table names don't show up here. Now this is firms, so I want firms there. And then from now on, this will have a drop down. We actually don't really need this. We could have kept that there. But if you have a template you're copying over, and then you're going to select the firm names, you could do that. Now watch this. If I go to the home and this paintbrush, or in earlier versions it's on the format button. What if I come over here, select this? Notice that there's a paintbrush wherever I click that. What if I click it? Oh no, that's not going to do the data validation. But guess what? I can copy. Come over here, and instead of pasting, I can go right click, paste special, and in the paste special, validation. Right? Actually, I can just copy. I don't have any formatting there. But validation, paste special validation is an option. So I'm just going to come over here and paste, Control V. All right, just because this one was 2 also. These tables are all dynamic. So now we have all of our accounts, our firm names. We have our checking accounts plus data validation at the top. Checking accounts are tables, so they are dynamic ranges. Now let's build our formulas. The first thing is, how do we get one chart of accounts if it says firm 1 here? Oh, we better come over here. Control C, Control V. So now we have our data validation. Now, I would like to plop in the one chart of accounts if it says firm 1. And if it says firm 2, I need a different chart of accounts. So here's how we're going to do that. First, we're just going to go ahead and build a formula. Let's just see if we can show the accounts for firm 2. Or let's start with firm 1. And then I'll show you how to switch back and forth using the choose function. Now, one problem with the chart of accounts is we have this huge list here, this template right here. And right now we say we only have count names to here. But what if we keep adding? We want the new names to show up automatically. So we're going to do a formula equals if, and then we're going to use the rows function. Rows of B $5 colon B5. This is a number incrementer inside of formulas. As I copy it down, this is locked, this is not. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a great way to increment numbers. Now I need to be able to turn this formula off when the rows gets big enough. Well, what is the big we're talking about? When the count of chart names, so when rows, the count of all the rows as we go down is greater than the count of the chart names. Well, not count won't work, but count will, because count counts words. So what is the name we gave for firm 1? Well, I don't remember, so I'm going to hit F3 and then select chart of account 1. Right? Close parentheses. Now you're asking, what if we select firm 2? This should be chart of account 2. Now, we could probably do something with indirect and concatenation, but forget that. I'm going to show you how to use the choose function to select 1 of 2 or 3 or 4 names. Then we'll use that same choose trick over in this column for our formula, because we're going to need different formulas. But for right now, let's just leave it there, build the rest of our formula, and then we'll come back and put the choose in there. So that is the logical test. Comma. Well, what if this is true? Rows are greater than. That means we're past the final account name, so we want the value of true, double quote, double quote. That's the value of true. That means blank. Otherwise, what do we want? Well, we're going to have to look up using some lookup function through chart of accounts. Row 1, we want the first account. Row 2, we want the second account. So we'll use index. And what is the name? The array with the names, F3, chart of account 1. Again, we'll do the same thing. We'll come back and change that to go back and forth between chart of accounts 1 and 2, comma, and what's the row number? Well, this same formula incrementer. Now, we don't need to worry about the index getting an error when we get the row number is too big. Why? Because this logical test in the if will have already put a blank into the cell, so it won't be looking at that. Close parentheses on the index. The value of false, well, that is the value of false, so close parentheses. This is not an array formula. Control Enter. And now I can copy it down. Okay, so now we have our accounts. Let's just go test it. Let's come over to accounts and chart of accounts for 1. Let's hit tab. Remember, table means dynamic range. You got to come to, I like to come to the end and hit tab. That way I'm assured that the record will be included, SSS or DDDD. Let's just go look. Sure enough, it shows up at the bottom here. And you could make this however big you want to accommodate chart of accounts. I'm going to Control Z. And then Control Z. Just check in there to make sure everything's working so far. Now let's, with that whole range still selected and the active cell at the top, hit F2. Now what are we going to do about this and this? Well, we're going to use the choose function. The choose function, again, is great because we want one of 2 named ranges, and it will do that. But the choose function needs number 1 for the first one, number 2 for the second one, and if we had more names, number 3, number 4. So guess what? That's why we built this over here, firm 1, firm 2. If we had more firms, we just type the name and 3, right? Control Z. So now we're going to come back over here and do VLOOKUP. What are we looking up? This name right here, comma, table array. I'm going to click on the accounts and select that. I could use table nomenclature because we have that whole table name, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to use the range and then F4 it to lock it. Comma, column index. Well, I want to return the second one, so number 2 for second column. That's the column index, comma. And then the range lookup, that's true for approximate or exact. Well, we have words, and the names of the firms may not be alphabetized. So I'm going to put exact match by putting a 0, not false, 0. Close parentheses and Control Enter. Let's just check and see if this works. By the way, this is, if we change this right here, right, it should say 2. Just to illustrate that trick from before, highlight here and F2, the active cell, F2. And now what do we need? We need to dump chart of account 1 or chart of account 2. So I use choose. Choose, the index number is the 1, 2, 3, 4, or however many you have. That cell right there. Index number, comma. That index number relates to the first value, second value. Well, our firm name for 1 is firm 1. Our firm name for 2 is firm 2. So the first value we need is chart of accounts 1. So I'm going to come to the end right here, comma. Now the second value, I'm going to hit the F3 key and paste it. Now again, you could put as many as you want. Index number relates to whatever the value is. Close parentheses. Now I need this. That's just going to dump one of 2 names into COUNTA, right? But I need the same exact thing inside of the index. So right here, instead of COA1, anytime you need 2 or more named ranges, you can use this choose. So there you go. Control Enter. Now I've edited this formula in the active cell. So to populate this formula, I hold Control and tap Enter. Now what did I do? I made some mistake. With the active cell still selected, I'm going to hit F2. I forgot to lock this. That one right there, F4. That one right there, F4. Now I'm going to edit it a second time and Control Enter. I love that trick of editing and Control Enter. Now when I select firm number 1, it should show me my new chart of accounts. So that's a good trick just in and of itself to show various chart of accounts. We did lots of other things in this video, but that really kind of is one nice thing. And then this other formula will be nice too, because we're going to use the choose to go back and forth between different formulas. Because remember, here's some accounts, right? For firm 1, we need to add from this sheet. But for firm 2, we have to add from 1 and 2 sheets. So what are there? There's 2 formulas here. So that means we can, for each firm. If you had 3 firms, there'd be 3 formulas. 4 firms, there would be 4 formulas. So let's build our formula. Now, we don't need to use the same if, rows, all that kind of stuff, because we already have a column with either something or a blank. And it's the blank that'll turn it off. So we'll say equals if the cell 1 to my left equals blank. That's the logical test. Comma, what do we want if it's true? Blank. Otherwise, we want what? We have to have SUMIF. Now here's our goal. We're only summarizing by a certain account number. We're going to do firm number 1 first, then firm number 2. And firm number 2, because there's 2 sheets, we'll have 2 SUMIFs. So it will be SUMIF plus SUMIF. No problem. We need some value here, and it's 2 formulas, so we use choose again. The index number will be this right here, comma. The value, the first value, is got to be associated with whatever the number 1 is, and that was firm 1 for us. So I'm going to do SUMIF. And this one's easy because there's only 1 sheet. Now we're going to have to do a lot of sheet references here. So I'm going to cheat and go comma and put the criteria in first because I don't want the sheet reference. Once you do a sheet reference in a formula, everything's a sheet reference. So I'm going to click there. And now notice the in and the out, the debit and the credit, the plus, the minus. Actually, it won't be just in, out, plus, minus for our cash flow. This cash account is going to have to be used in both columns. So I'm going to have to hit F4 and lock the column reference, but not the row. Because when the formula goes down, it needs to go to AR and then prepaid. All right, so that is the second argument. That is the criteria. That's the thing you're telling the SUMIF, hey, add up all of the transactions that were for the cash account. Now I'm going to come back to this. This range argument in SUMIF is the actual range with the criteria. Those are the account names. So I'm going to highlight that. Now I kind of have to come up here and look. I need those ranges locked, so I'm going to hit the F4. Now that's the criteria, so I come to the end and comma. Now sum range. Now remember, there's an in and an out, and our formula on this other sheet has to be copied over to a comma, the second column. So I'm going to highlight this, and how am I going to lock it? F4, F4. Locked one going down, but not to the side, because on that other sheet, when I copy this formula over one, that Dancy Nance box needs to move over to out. All right, so that SUMIF right there, close parentheses. Now I'm going to just close parentheses on the choose, close parentheses on the if, and I'm going to Control Enter. We're going to get an error here, but no problem. It's just because the choose can't find a second value. Then I'm going to come over here. That's the value if 1. So I'm back over to my formula here, choose. Right? I've only put in 1 SUMIF. Now I type comma, and the value that I want, 2 SUMIFs added together, 1 for each sheet. So that's another interesting idea here too, right? You have multiple sheets you're adding with conditions. You can just SUMIF plus SUMIF. Add them together. So I'm going to do SUMIF. Let's see if I can SUMIF. I'm going to do that same little trick here. Actually, why don't I just copy this, or I'll hit this and then F4 to lock it. You know, this one right here needs to be locked also to the side. All right, but I'm going to copy this because I'm going to have to use it in 2 SUMIFs. Now I did that same trick. All right, SUMIF. I didn't put anything for this, but when I went ahead and skipped ahead and put that in so I don't get that sheet reference. Now I need to come back here. The range. Now I have to do the first bank account here is going to be our range. That's the criteria. And then F4. Now very carefully, I'm starting to get, it's hard to see up here, but there it is. There's the criteria. And then I'm going to click right there and comma. Now I get my sum range. Whoops. The sum range, and I highlight the in and hit the F4 twice. Remember, locked row, not the column. Now I close parentheses. You can see the argument says, hey, I got that last one there by being bold. Close parentheses, and then I do plus SUMIF. Now I have to go over and get my range from the second sheet. It is the criteria, so I highlight that and hit F4. Comma, the criteria is the same. It is that $B5, comma, and now the sum range. Same thing here, but for the next sheet, highlight that, F4, F4. All right, now I have my value put a close parentheses on the SUMIF, and now I can see I have my choose, but the choose has got the second value, and I've already put that in, so I click there. Value of false, I already have that one, so I click there, and now I Control Enter. That's our formula. Now let's just go ahead and look at this. I obviously have some sort of problem here. It's not true. It's right here. I have a plus. Anytime you see a true come up, it's either coming from the if, which is not because we have our two arguments there, or it's a logical formula with some comparative operator. And what I've done is I said SUMIF is equal to, so I forgot to do shift plus, or much smarter, use the plus on the number pad. All right, Control Enter. Now I'm going to copy this over. I have a value there. Forgot to lock that, so I'm going to escape, come over here. Oh, yeah, the choose. So I'm going to hit F4. I did the same mistake over here, too. All right, Control Enter. Drag it over, and then double click and send it down. OK, now let's go ahead and try firm 1. And sure enough, the accounts show up and the summarization from just that first sheet. Come over here. New accounts, new formula, and new summation. Let's do some testing. Let's come over here to firm 2. And I'm going to come over here and hit Tab. And I'm going to say other. There's nothing after other expense. There's other expense. Now I'm going to come over to this one right here and test it. I'm going to come here. And here's how we add a new record to a table. Tab. This is 1/5. And by default, since I'm typing this in 2010, if I leave the 2010 off, no, that's not going to work. Anyway, the right year's in there, but the wrong format. Tab. This is going to be an expense, so we're going to write a check. 255. This is the wrong check number up here. This was 29. So this one will be 29588. You could actually do a formula for this too. We did shipping. And the other expense, this data validation did not populate down. The formula did. That means the formula is not working. This is the second time I've shot this video because this table is not working. Let's that's too bad. D7. Now that we've added, see, it's the table does show D7. Let's go over here and see on the cash flows. We're going to come over to, OK, so D7. So that means if we look right here, so the first SUMIF, it did update. There's the D7. So it is updating, but the data validation, so the everything's picking up the dynamic range except for the data validation. Alt-D-L, Tab-L. It'd be a hassle to do this every time. This is for firm 2, so I do chart of account 2. Now I'm going to select the other. And I'm going to say out for $200. All right, so now if I come over to here, I should see other over here, which I do. That formula picked it up, and the SUMIF added that. Now let's do one other one. I'm just going to change this to this revenue was 588. Let's just see if that updates. 588. Oh, revenue 1. So there was 2 revenue ones, 588, and that one right there. So there it is, except for our little problem right here, why the data validation. I think if I highlight all this and do data validation, it will go ahead and update. But there it is. Big, long video to do lots of things, but we saw the choose to put one of two names, and we saw the choose to put one of two formulas to summarize from different sheets depending on what's up here. All right, we'll see you next trick.